Start thinking about. What could it be?
Oh, yeah.
The anticipation is killing me. I hope it'll last. A playoff expansion. Also, the Wentz shutdown, the Lamar load up with Gutierrez, Spain, Page, Plaschke. Let's go.
Plus the Wentz being shut down. Who's going to back him up? You just have a backup quarterback?
Expansion is inevitable, Barry Alvarez. It's an appropriate thing to start thinking about. Bob Bowlesby. All this from Nicole Auerbich's piece in The Athletic. Fed up with SEC favoritism and UCF's treatment, some important commissioners, presidents, ADs, ready to talk 18 playoffs. That's how Stuart Mandel described it. Sarah Spain, first to you. Is now the time for an 18 playoff?
Well, if you ask the CFP Executive Director, Bill Hancock, he'll say the time is near the end of ESPN's 12-year contract. But most everybody disagrees, and so do I. We're about to be at the halfway mark, and you'll have all 6 of the semifinal bowls having hosted an equal number of times. That's a perfect time to make the transition into a new format. Though what I've seen floated, which would allow for the conference champions of all the Power Fives, the best team from the group of 5 and 2 at large, is not the direction that I would go, even though I understand that's best for ratings. I think you take the best 8 teams. It allows you a bigger field and fewer complaints. You got the best 8 teams.
Okay, and how do you choose those best 8 teams, I wonder, Sarah Spain? And how do you not guarantee that the night team isn't happy? That's what questions I would ask Israel Gutierrez if you want to join in here.
I mean, are we going to do this every single year until there's 8 teams?
Yes.
I mean, look, if you especially this year when you're talking about where the favorite is such a heavy favorite that there is no argument for the 7th or 8th or 9th team winning it all. And that's the whole point here to me is what are we really arguing here? Are we arguing that the best team is not winning the championship every single year? Or are we arguing that every team is not getting a chance? Because the issue isn't the playoff format. It's the fact that it's a one-game sample. And it's football. That's just the way it is. The best team in the NFL doesn't win every single year. So if you want to get it to 8, just get it to 8, but just stop with the argument all the time because we can make the same argument for decades to come until we get to the NCAA basketball tournament style on their 68 team.
Bill Plaschke?
It's an argument about inclusion, Izzy. And Sarah, I don't agree with you. I think if we need the 18 playoff, we need to have every conference represented, plus the 2 at-larges, plus 1 from the group of 5. That's perfect. It's talking about one more game. Playing one more game, get rid of the conference championship weekends, play it that weekend.
Oh, do you see that happening? Do you think they're going to get rid of the conference championship weekend anytime soon? That free money that
absolutely. If they can make a lot more money doing this. Once TV gets on board with this, they'll make a lot more money getting rid of those championship games.
I don't understand why you have to get rid of the conference championship. Why not? I'm going to go to you, Woody Page, in a second, but why not have the conference championship game decide who goes from each conference? Each conference sends somebody to a playoff, and voila, we go from there. Woody Page, join us.
Yes, I've been debating this, Israel, for decades. 45 years ago, I wrote a column saying there should be an 18 playoff. It's going to take another 45 years to get to 16, which is the right number. Really, when you think about it, all the other divisions have 16 teams. Division 2, Division 3, NAI, except for 1. You talk about money, Bill. I think there's the answer here that you get everybody on board. 2 things. 1, you take that $500 million and let the players be paid for every institution.
Okay,
that's
well, let's not try to
2,
solve every single problem known to man in one fell swoop here, Woody Page. And before you get to number 2, everybody else wants back in. Sarah Spain, go.
Yeah, like, Izzy, I understand your point, and it's a valid one right now. But going forward, it's not going to be, hopefully, as one-sided to one team as it has been the last year or so with Alabama. Secondarily, it's about teams that do gain something from being in the playoff in general and having a shot to win the game, even if they're not going to win at all. That's important to most programs other than maybe, say, Alabama that's just got 1 goal. As for conference championships, I think the reason you have to do that is because of timing. You can only have so many extra games.
And that's totally fine, Sarah. I totally understand if the argument is, inclusion, as Bill is saying, but we're creating a new argument that wasn't there for the BCS. The whole point of making the 14 playoff is because somebody was not included that could have won it. Now we're arguing somebody was not included that may have benefited somehow, whether monetarily or something else. The point is entirely different.
We don't know that.
I don't know if we know that.
Alabama's going to win every year, every year, and they haven't won every year.
Season, if you want to say that the regular season's supposed to mean a lot, like some of these ADs are saying now, well, it meant even more when only 2 teams went, and every game.
But if every single other division of this sport in the NCAA has a playoff. I mean, what's wrong with what Division I AA, what it used to be called, the FCS does every year?
Don't tell me why.
Well, Why?
Don't tell me
I'll
this
tell
is
you
the
why,
reason
because it's
why.
more fun. Because more of anything, more of everything. Bill Plaschke, how about you?
Then make that argument.
Yeah, Tony,
I
you know,
just did.
you're talking about not getting rid of the conference championship games. You have to get rid of. I think the university presidents will probably only agree to add one more game to this. They're involved in this. That game comes out of that weekend.
See, I
makes total
don't
sense.
need your reasons why you need more games. Just more games are better. Woody, I've been hanging on every word you said earlier. I want that second reason, and I want you to expound on it. Please, go ahead.
Yes. Point two, you asked the question, who would decide? You have the fans, the coaches poll, you'd have the writers poll.
You don't have
you'd
the
have
fans.
a computer,
No, Woody,
you
not
have
the
the
fans.
committee.
I want
No.
less people deciding other
Fans.
people's
Make
fate.
it fun.
I want less
Yeah,
people
fans,
deciding
come on,
teams'
Woody.
fate.
Pac-12
Every
doesn't have a
conference
chance.
winner goes to the playoff. There you go.
Yes,
you want to
that's it.
expand beyond that? Take a wild card from the next poll that you
Notre Dame
have,
would
but at
like
least
that.
start with every conference sending anybody. And Sarah, you brought it up. Now would be a good time because every bowl has hosted it, but maybe they'll get to the back end. If you want to change your life now. Let's not wait for 4 years or 6. You're going to tell me the rest of my
now.
life's
Tony
going to be better?
Robbins. I mean,
Let's do
reality.
it right now. We'll move on. Let's change our story right now. NFL news of the day. Ian Rappaporting. Carson Wentz shut down this week versus the Rams, maybe for the rest of the year. That's back-related, not knee. Philly's going to Nick Foles. Anybody think they're going to do what they did last time, win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles? Maybe not this year.
No.
So then we'll move on to the other news of the day. Ravens announcing they'll stick with Lamar Jackson, even though Joe Flacco is backo. Flacco is the backup now. Israel, you okay with the team turning over to Lamar full-time?
I absolutely am, and I've said this before. When you draft a quarterback in the first round, your goal is to find a way to get him to be your quarterback of the future. They don't just do this on a whim and say, hey, look, Lamar Jackson's there. Oh, we have a quarterback in Joe Flacco. Let's just draft him anyway. We'll figure it out. They have all these ideas in mind, and so when you bring in Lamar Jackson and he does what he's been doing and having your team win in an entirely new, unique system, and some would argue he can remind you of Michael Vick in, a year or two if he develops a little bit more. I think this is an easy decision here when you've been sort of on Joe Flacco for the last 3 or 4 years.
Plaschke, how about the
Yeah.
Ravens here?
Yeah, some people will say Flacco shouldn't lose his job to injury. He lost his job with a 4-5 record as a starter. Lamar Jackson's 3-1 as a starter. Joe Flacco actually started losing his job the minute they drafted Lamar Jackson. He changes his team over 100 yards more rushing per game. They have more yardage per game with him in there. They're a different team. They're a different look. They're harder to defend. It's a great move. I'm glad they made it. It's a tough move because Harbaugh, Flacco's very popular there, but it's a really smart,
Woody
tough
Page?
move.
The two biggest lies in the world are the checks in the mail and a guy can't lose his starting job to injury. Neither one of them ever happened. I mean, I think that Lamar Jackson, because of being 3-1 and the way he's energized that offense, he's got to keep playing. And I think Flacco's got to be okay with that. In regard to Wentz, yes, shut him down. This is not going to work out as well as it did last year. They're not going to get in the Super Bowl. They're not going to get in the playoffs. So in both those cases, and I think it's interesting to have a Lamar Jackson, Jameis Winston matchup because they're the two players that were the youngest when they won the Heisman Trophy. That means something.
Okay, I wasn't thinking of it like that. Now that we're in the NFL,
It means he did
I
some
was thinking of
research.
the
He did some
Ravens.
research. That's all that's about.
The Ravens playoff run here, Sarah Spain. Are they best situated with Lamar Jackson or Joe Flacco?
Yeah, I'm going to keep answering the questions at today's show. I think Woody might be doing a different show at the same time today. Absolutely, but not for the reason that Izzy said. And I understand Izzy's point, which is when you draft a guy like this, you are obviously looking to make him your starter. You're not just going to diddle around with him. But that being said, the reason that you're doing this is because of the proof being in the pudding. They lost 4 of 5 with Flacco before the injury. They've won 3 of 4 with Jackson after it. Whether or not you want to figure out what you've got with him and you want him to eventually start, you don't do that if you're still in the hunt unless he makes your team better, which right now Lamar Jackson is doing.
Yeah, I do think for this season, too, you could sort of win-win on this one. For this season, it just looks like the better option. And if they sort of flame out down the stretch, you still have next year to sort of rework things. I don't think it's an absolute decision for the rest of, the Ravens.
The Ravens are empowered around him. He almost won at Kansas City with him. You can tell the team just performs better under him. Perfect.
All right, we don't want to diddle around here. The proof is in the pudding. We'll move on. Steelers on Sunday. Mike Tomlin said rhythm and flow is why he didn't use Ben Roethlisberger those 2.5 possessions after he came back from rib treatment. Now, Tomlin and also Roethlisberger on his radio show on 93.7 saying inconclusive x-ray from the old junkie machine at Oakland Alameda Coliseum held him up. Ed Bouchette reporting in the Post-Gazette, pain-killing shot needed some time to set in. Plaschke, you were on Monday's show. You were very critical of Tomlin. How do you hear it today?
I'm still very critical, even more critical. If this was the issue, why didn't he say it? Why didn't he just come out and say it in the press conference?
Yep.
Why was he trying to hide something? You're not hiding anything. First off, I'm going with Ed Bouchette. I totally believe he's a veteran reporter. I believe the rib injury. I believe that the shot takes time to get. But I also still think they were holding him out, thinking we want to save him for New England. I think that was still the overriding thing here, and I think Tomlin tried to cover that up originally. Otherwise, he wouldn't try to cover
Spain,
up.
how do you see
He's
it?
trying to cover. Now he looks silly.
Yeah, but listen, with all of the experience that he has and with this Steelers team having as many ups and downs and drama, I don't see him looking at a 4-point lead, even over a crap team, and saying that's enough. I'm just going to sit my starting quarterback. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's the only reason that you would have to argue that he was doing this not because of fears over what Roethlisberger was suffering from, not because he was waiting for the painkiller to kick in, but just because he was on a whim deciding his defense and his backup quarterback could handle things. I don't buy that. Whether or not you wanted him to say exactly what it was in plainer terms right away, I'll agree with you on that one, but I don't think this was a cover-up for making the wrong move.
No, I definitely buy it. I'm starting to lean toward Bill here. Like, I think it just shows the lack of discipline in this team where they can't get it right on the field, where they say, okay, let's wait and see what's happening. Oh, no, wait, we're in a desperate situation. I'm going to go ahead and put Ben Roethlisberger at risk here. After the game, you can't get it right. You can't even get a PR angle right on this, even though if you're not telling the truth, just say something that'll sort of appease the media. And you didn't do that right. And now, a couple days later, you're going back to fix it. It seems to be pretty consistent with some of the reasons they're underachieving. It just seems like there's a lack of discipline in that organization right now.
I'm shocked that all these people are surprised by what happened over the weekend. Given everything that's happened with the Steelers this year, there's been drama every week, and this just adds to it. Oh, yeah, everything in Oklahoma Coliseum is old. You get used to that. But we know that Ben walked over to him and said, guys, the shot is just cut in. I'm ready to go back in. That's what happened. I don't know why they're playing around with all these other answers.
Okay, so let's say Tomlin really didn't know how badly he was hurt. Why did he put him back in then? How do you risk him? If you really don't know how badly he's hurt, why do you put him back into law?
Yeah, I completely agree. But the whole point is maybe his thought is, I don't know what's wrong with them. Let me wait for this shot to kick in. If he tells me he feels fine, go for it.
Okay, all right.
Then why did he talk about the shot?
It seemed like something he could have
He did. He said something about medication.
in the press conference on Sunday rather than saying rhythm and flow. I think that's what Platsky and Woody and Israel are saying, Sarah Spain, but we'll get to that later.
Good song.
Paige, you've answered some of the questions I've asked today. You've answered more questions that you just raised, and you're in the lead. It's worked out well for you. We'll see what happens in Buy or Sell next.
I like rhythm and flow better than tempo.
You know?
Yeah. Woody Page, our leader, with news we might be able to use in his answers as we go into Buy or Sell. Raptors 123, Clippers 99. That's the best anybody has got the Clippers this year. And Toronto did it without Kawhi. How you follow that up? Raptors Warriors tonight for the second and last, but not really, question mark, time tonight. Nick Nurse says Kawhi will play if the hip is good. Israel, how important is it that Leonard plays tonight versus the Warriors?
I know you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to go Woody Page and say maybe the Clippers are coming down to earth because they lost their last two by 23 and then 24.
Oh,
but
don't you
I
start.
don't think it's important that Kawhi Leonard.
confused.
I don't think that's important that Kawhi Leonard plays today for a couple of reasons. One, they're 6-1 without him this year. They've been resting him in back-to-backs, and so if they can go ahead and play well without him, that's more power to them. And also, they kind of know what he can do against the Warriors. The last time he played on that floor, you remember they were up by like 26. The Spurs were.
Okay, so you'd say you take the Raptors playing without Kawhi and playing well over Kawhi playing in the game altogether. All right, Platsky,
Big confidence
how about you?
for that team.
I think if Kawhi can play, he needs to play. The Raptors franchise has lost 13 straight games in Golden State. The last time they won there, Jalen Rose played for the Raptors. It was that long ago. I think they need to prove themselves they can win there when you go in the postseason. If he can play, he needs to
Woody
be there.
Page?
No, they're not going to win with him or without him. So why play him? I don't think it makes any
Oh, so
sense.
just
They've
give up.
already
Just give
ended
up.
their. They've already ended their Bill. They've ended the streak that mattered to them. They hadn't won a
They
game
beat
against the
them
Warriors
2 weeks
in 5
ago,
years.
but that was
They've
without
now
Curry and
proven they can
Green,
win it.
Woody.
And sure. And now that Green and Curry are back, and they're 11-1 at home, they're not going to beat them anyway.
Okay, that's a lot of opinion, not so much analysis. How about you, Spain?
Yeah, I think we should just
want
skip the whole
analysis?
season. They're not going to beat him anyway, so why are we playing these games?
Woody, yeah.
Also, as for Izzy's point, I like the beginning. I think it's valid. This isn't the most important game ever, and if he's not healthy, don't play him. But how he played against the Warriors when he was on the Spurs is of little relevance to how he'll play against the Warriors when he's on a brand new team with different teammates. So it might be nice to have a look at how that goes.
As Israel Gutierrez broke the news, reporting Clippers had their season worst loss to Toronto, and they were coming off what was their season worst loss to Miami. Read Brian Windhorst today. The plan for this upcoming summer is to land Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant. And they've been publicly and blatantly scouting them at games all year. And then I read Bill Plaschke today, and you wrote it up, that the Clippers are the perfect landing spot. Well, I want you to expound here, Bill Plaschke, why you think the Clippers have a real shot at both.
Well, as the only panelist here who spoke with Steve Ballmer last night,
Okay, inside information.
They're all in on this. They have a competitive team. They have the 2 salary slots. They have an owner who will spend money. They have Jerry West sitting behind the basket, and they have a chance for either of the stars to build their own legacy, to make their own history here, not to follow anybody else's footsteps. It's a perfect conditions.
Woody Page, you see it as perfect conditions like Plaschke does?
Sure, Bill. You should have had it. They're going to have their own arena someday. They don't have to. They don't have to bump with the Lakers, and I think that's important to this. And I like what they're doing here. They're sending people out, and so when the spring comes around, they'll know the Clippers are paying attention to both of them all the time.
Yeah, I laughed when I read that,
analysis?
Woody.
I
They're
don't know,
sending
or
people
opinion.
out to watch games. What exactly is scouting Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard going to get you? They're good? I saw it, guys. They're really, really good. I don't know.
No. When they come around, Leonard will go, wow, they're paying attention to me all the time.
Sarah Spade, how about you?
Yeah, imagine someone being interested in Kawhi Leonard as a free agent. As one of 3 panelists who didn't need to speak to Steve Ballmer to know the feel of the Clippers, I have to say, it's the arena, it's the market, it's the idea that Ballmer himself said, which is you get to be the guy, you get to have a legacy, and knowing what we know about players, maybe not wanting to play with LeBron, maybe not wanting to be called a cupcake for going to play with other stars or going to a place that already wins. This is somewhere that you get to set a precedent and be the guy. He's speaking right to Kevin Durant.
Gutierrez.
These organizations, they'll take a while to get to that level, right? That championship level. The Clippers are right there. They have a championship coach. They had a team that they could have made a run with before and got, disappointed in the playoffs. Obviously, this is the way they make that leap. And please let that happen with Kevin Durant being in the same city as LeBron James after he omitted LeBron from all this GOAT conversation earlier. That rivalry really needs to develop.
Let's play a little odds maker, PTI style. 0% to 100%. Chances the Clippers land both Durant and Kawhi Leonard, Gutierrez.
51%.
Really? Over 50%. Sarah Spain, how about you?
62.
Page.
Woo, 28.6.
Plaschke.
70%. They're all in.
70%.
They're going to make this happen. We're going to make this happen.
My mind. I got some bad news for you, Bill. Bad news for you, Woody.
There's no percent chance.
No percent chance you're advancing. And honestly,
No.
Matt Kelleher of PTI, the producer, was scouting today's Around the Horn just to see how you guys do it. And I'm not sure that's going to get you on PTI anytime soon. Spade, Gutierrez. Showdown next on the other side. Sarah Spain, Israel Gutierrez in Showdown. Good luck to you both.
But our football team is going to come down here ready to play. We're going to practice really hard. We're going to play really hard. I hope that we play well, but I know that we'll play hard.
Temple interim coach Ed Foley, the hype machine for the Independence Bowl. Overplaying, underplaying, or playing it just right, Sarah?
You're probably asking yourself, is this guy related to Matt Foley? And does he live in a van down by the river? And the answer is obviously yes, and he's selling it just right.
Oh, man. I wish I could match the SNL fandom of Sarah, but I cannot. I think he's doing great if he wants to be the next mayor of Shreveport, Louisiana. I don't think he's really doing anything to be the next head coach of
That
Temple.
was the most flawless answer in a Showdown in recent history.
I mean, it was great.
7-point lead. Good luck, Israel, in Showdown 2. This headline, if Robinson Cano wants to loaf at the first base, Mickey Callaway is fine with that. Scott Chusano, New York Daily News. Israel, does that make sense to you?
I mean, I don't know any SNL characters named Mickey, so I'm just going to say, no, that doesn't make sense to me. You're sort of taking your own legs out from under you when you're saying, hey, I don't worry about discipline. Do whatever you want. Just come to my team.
Yeah, the argument here is that he plays so much and he's so durable because he doesn't always run it out when he's not going to make it. I don't like that argument. I don't like the way it'll trickle down to other players, and I think it's a slippery slope.
Baseball's been very, very good to Robinson Cano. Showdown has been very, very good to Sarah Spain. A 10-0 win. Congrats.
Yes, that was a dominant Showtime victory, and the FaceTime is about the dominant 20, which is a very cool feature that ESPN magazine just put out. A lot of people are wondering how come some of these athletes in the top of the dominance are not the ones we'd expect. Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, golfers, LPGA players. And the reason is they used an algorithm and they used analytics to say that these are the people who are doing the most incredible things at their sport, not the people who are being watched the most doing incredible things. And I think that's important. We can get a whole bunch of lists about how much we love LeBron and how much we love the NBA. I would rather hear about the unbelievable ways that these people are dominating their sports than just another list of people we like.
I mean, it's so true.
Or less.
Has Katie Ledecky ever lost a meaningful race? Has Simone Biles
No.
ever not set a record when she's been there? 23 NFL